Hi friends. So in this video I'd like to talk about a new book I read, and it's How It Feels to Float by Helena Fox. And just a quick shout out to my friend Sophia who recommended me this book. Thanks for the recommendation. So a few thoughts. I think when I reached the ending of the book, I was quite traumatized because this book deals with mental health issues. So it's about a teenager in a first-person narrative where she talks about her. It's kind of like a diary. So she talks about her life, school, and then you realize that halfway through, she is mentally ill. So there are elements of psychosis, visual and auditory hallucinations, where her father had died but she sees his ghost. So at first I was wondering whether it was a supernatural story, but toward the end I realized that actually I think it was the author's intention to tie in elements of the supernatural in an attempt to make it more interesting, but actually it was psychosis basically. So it was her hallucinating that her father was around in an effort to calm herself down, because her father's presence used to calm her down as a child. So I think it was scary because there were no trigger warnings, and I think if it can happen to a girl like her who was very believable, it could potentially happen to anybody. And yeah, I think that was the scary part for me. So I'd like to ramble a little bit about mental health in Singapore and why I think it's important. So I think in schools now, teachers talk about mental health issues, and it's a lot better than before. So like there's more awareness. They recognize symptoms of depression, anxiety, and try to address it. But and I respect the ministry's efforts and the teachers' efforts to do so. But I think there are limitations to that, because basically you're essentially treating the symptoms but not the cause, which is systemic. I think a lot of kids are stressed out, depressed, due to the educational system, how stressful it is. And that's something that it's probably takes a long time to change. But and also I think bullying or isolation, and also I think in this pandemic, these are issues that are hard to address just through treating the symptoms, like to go plug out of social media, take a walk, exercise. I think those are well and good, but I think we gotta study the etiology and origins of how people get depressed and anxious. And I think and in this book, it addresses psychosis, so hallucinations, I think harder stuff like dissociative identity disorder, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia. I think these are issues that we definitely need to talk about more in our society, whether it's in schools or in the broader society. It's just, I think it's so swept under the carpet, and when they occur in the media, whether it's people or ordinary people or celebrities that are showcased, is usually either it's either inspirational porn, or it's blown out of proportion. So there's no somewhere in between, where actually these are just people, ordinary people leading ordinary lives. And I think that I think a simple book like this really forced me to confront the fact that these are people who live among us. I mean, I have friends with an assortment of mental health issues, and it's hard, when they feel like they have to be closeted because of stigma, even in a progressive place like Singapore. I think also in employment wise, I think the fact that even though I think you're not supposed to state in employment forms asking applicants to state mental health issues, I think it's not enforced by the Ministry of Manpower. So I think that's an issue. And I understand the limitations, like sometimes health and safety are at risk, but I think people are often discriminated just because. I don't know how to solve the problem, but I think the first step is if it's explicitly stated, that you're not supposed to discriminate. I think it's important to enforce it. So I probably have to study more of how MWM works to give a more thorough answer to that. But I think the first step would be that, because if there are laws or in place or guidelines in place, they would be of no effect if they're not enforced. Yeah, okay, I think that's the first thing. And secondly, I think I'd like to talk about how there is I think there is a tough balance in between medical intervention and alternative methods of intervention. So I think in this book, the narrator tries to have talk therapy and tries to go for a photography class in an effort to get better, but she doesn't. So she gets worse. The photographs talk to her, but it was just a mind talking to her. So I think there needs to be a balance, because I think these days, alternative methods of treatment are on the rise. So I think I'm actually an advocate, because I think medicine has limits, right? So I think that we should definitely explore alternatives, but not discount the fact that, I think for many people with ADHD, on Twitter, they talk about how just a bit of Ritalin or Adderall help them focus so much better. Just because we are in a society that forces us to sit down and listen to lectures or do work, I think there are benefits to medicine that are unacknowledged and swept aside. And of course, for all the problems that psychotropic drugs basically have on the human body and the mind, they cannot be discounted. But I think there needs to be a balance between that and alternative methods of treatment. Like I think being in nature, exercise, music therapy, play therapy, those are up and coming methods of treatment. I think they should be used in conjunction. EMDR, somatic, everything should be used in tandem. So I think this is something that I'd like to explore in the future. There are books that I'm reading, and I'd like to talk about when I'm done with them, because I don't want to talk about things that I've only read partially. So if you're interested, watch this space. And I think I also just want to have a shout out to my friend Natty Nook for inspiring me. Yesterday I watched her video of reading diversity, reading diverse mental health books, and I'll link her video down below in the description. So do check out her video as well. And thank you, Natalie, for inspiring me to talk about this, because it's a really, really hard topic to talk about. I was quite triggered reading this book, so thanks. And I think we should have more people writing books from their own experience. So this is a person who she has mental health problems and struggled through it. And also this is set in Australia, so it's pretty cool, because most of YA fiction I've read set in US, UK, nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting to see something set somewhere else. So hopefully something set in Singapore soon. Alright, so I think that's all I have to say today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!